don't worry about it, let's just hope it stays alive. And if not, you can watch my talk I did on Sunday, which I did another one of these the other day. Anyway, I found out through them that the American Astronomical Society Solar Eclipse Task Force had a grant. It's the J.M. Kashikov, I hope I'm saying his name right. He was a heliophysicist, a physicist who studies the sun. Solar Eclipse Mini Grant, and what they call a mini grant for a giant organization like that is a huge grant for us. It's tied at $5,000 with the biggest grants I've ever got. And so what they call a mini grant, we think of as a big grant, and that was able to buy a whole bunch of equipment so that we can collect a ton of data during this eclipse. And part of what I hope to do here during the talk is to convince you, maybe, to download an app or two and participate in some citizen science during the eclipse. Yes, it's going to be awesome, and yes, at totality, I want you to do nothing but stare at the sun. It's going to be amazing. It is worth it. But leading up to the eclipse during the partial phases, coming out of the eclipse during the partial phases, it's not the most exciting. Like, it's different, it's cool, but it's not the kind of thing you're going to spend all hour and a half, 2, 3 hours watching the moon move across the face of the sun. You're going to look at it, and you're going to look away, and you're going to look back at it. And during those times when you're looking away, I'm hoping I can convince you to collect a little bit of data for the broader scientific community, because we don't get a lot of opportunities to do this. I also want to point out that this is about the only good photo I got during 2017. I traveled down to Missouri in 2017, and this is an effect known as the diamond ring that I'll talk about a little bit later on. But we went down to Missouri, we were in the St. Louis area. St. Louis was right outside of Path of totality, and so they didn't actually get a total solar eclipse. All I knew was day of. I was going to drive somewhere where it was clear, not cloudy, and as close to the center line as I could. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. And I was very fortunate. I ended up in Perryville right here. Absolutely gorgeous location, saw the eclipse. They also happen to be inside the X between the last eclipse path and the next eclipse path. So if it is cloudy here, I won't be here. I am going to go away. The administration already knows they're going to be giving me a sub for a day or two, and I am going to be in Missouri or in Arkansas or Texas or wherever I have to go to see this because it is worth it. Having said that, excuse me, if the weather is clear, please come out here and join me. I've got all this cool equipment these grants have helped buy me. Might as well use it. Plus, it is absolutely worth seeing it with a group of people. I kind of isolated myself in that park. There is this huge baseball diamond about a football field's length away. They have probably 1,000 students on there. Buses galore. In fact, I followed the buses to find that park. I didn't know where I was going. Saw a whole bunch of buses. Like, I bet they know where they're going. And I followed them. Absolutely awesome. Could not believe how exciting it was to be with a group, and I am a super shy guy, believe it or not. I have no problem talking like this. You get me one-on-one, it's a little bit more awkward for me. And so I was away from that crowd. It was absolutely worth being with the crowd. It was so awesome. You want to come out here. If the weather's not clear and you can travel, do. It is worth it, and we don't get another opportunity like this in America until 2044 and 45. And so it's going to be a while, and you have to travel for those. And we'll get into all the upcoming eclipses and future dates and things like that, but it is worth seeing through. If you cannot travel and the weather is bad, go outside still. It is worth it because even if you can't see the phenomenal effects like this, it is still going to get cold, you're still going to notice lighting changes, and it's going to get as dark as night in the middle of the day. It is absolutely breathtaking. It's so cool. I'm so excited. Anyway, my dad is here, and my dad is responsible for getting me involved with science, and specifically my first love of science and astronomy. I was 3 or 4 years old. He took me out in the backyard and showed me the Big Dipper. He showed me Orion. I feel a little bit awkward because I'm actually pointing to the wrong places of the sky when I point to those, but that's the overthinking part of my brain. Anyway, he showed me those. I was hooked. I was about 7 years old, somewhere between first and second grade, and there was going to be a total lunar eclipse. And my dad was home, and my next door neighbor, who was my best friend at the time, was over playing with me, and my dad was in the garage, and we wandered in there, and he said, there's going to be a total lunar eclipse tomorrow night. And my friend said, wow, neat! What's an eclipse? And my dad did exactly what I'm going to do with things like this. He got out and probably a soccer ball and a softball, baseball, because that's what we had, and he held them up and showed how all the motions are going to be and how the shadows are going to be and explained the eclipse. And now I get to do that kind of teaching. I get to do it to a big group. I absolutely love it. And so we're going to get into what an eclipse is. Before we can do that, though, one big downside of astronomy is that it is impossible to have pictures to scale. It is almost impossible to have models to scale. For example, this image here, the sun is not smaller than the earth. The sun is not that close to the earth, thank goodness. This one here does an okay job on Earth-Moon size, does a horrible job on Earth-Moon distance, definitely does a bad job on Earth-Moon-Sun size compared to their distances. I've set up a couple models on here. You probably noticed over there the inflatable globe. That there's the Earth. That globe is the right scale size for that 6-inch moon over there. That moon, and if we shrink the moon down to that size, the Earth would be shrunk down to that size, and it would be just over 55 feet apart. The downside, the sun, that is shining towards the moon, and the moon's shadow falling on the Earth, that sun is 200 feet big. If you're familiar with the school building here, down there at the cemetery door, so right about here, the Legion of Honor display, that's 200 feet. And that sun will be 4 miles that way. It just doesn't fit. If we shrink the sun way down, and I've lost my second sun, but if we shrink the sun way down to that little one over there, the Earth is smaller than a bee. If we shrink the sun down to the size of the one over there on the wall, that medium-sized Earth would be here, 75 feet away from the wall. And the moon would be a speck of dust a quarter of an inch away. It is not scale, unfortunately. There's my other sun. And so now you can actually see the Earth there. No, you can't, because it's too tiny. I'll start this pass around the group. Hopefully it makes it around to you. But you can see the Earth, and it tells you on the back they've done the calculation already. It's 75 feet. They didn't do the moon thing. I did the moon thing. I was too curious, and I had a student ask one time, so let's figure it out. So we did. Anyway, so what is an eclipse? This isn't a scale, but in an eclipse, you have something ending up in the shadow of something else. The sun is a big ball of light. That's super simplification, just trust me. It's a big ball of light. So you have this big ball of light here. Anything that is not glowing like the sun, that is spherical enough, half lit, half dark. And so that dark side we call night. That night side is really just the shadow side, though. And so when the moon is over here, the moon has a shadow. The shadow just doesn't fall on anything. When the Earth is here, they don't have the day-night side here on the Earth, but when the Earth is here, you have a shadow side of the Earth. That shadow side is called night side. One downside of a model like this is it makes it look like there we would get a solar eclipse, and there we get a lunar eclipse, and over and over and over again. But most diagrams in astronomy are also oversimplified. It is only on occasion that they end up in alignment with one another. And when they end up in alignment with one another, then the shadow of one object falls on another object, and you get an eclipse. If the thing, there's the shadow completely, then you get a total eclipse. So this here would be the arrangement for a total lunar eclipse, where the moon passes into the Earth's shadow and the moon gets blocked out. It happens during full moon phase. We have one coming up, I think it's next year. Solar eclipse, on the other hand, is when the moon's shadow hits the Earth. We name the eclipses based off of what's being blocked out from our perspective, not off of the shadow thing. But the moon will be between us and the sun, therefore the moon's shadow is going to hit the Earth. The sun is big, like I said, not the scale. And because the sun is big, you end up with a washed out part of the shadow and a dark part of the shadow. The washed out part of the shadow is a light shadow called a penumbra. Everyone inside the penumbra will see a partial solar eclipse. Everyone inside of the umbra will see a total solar eclipse. The sun will get completely blocked out. So, all you have to do is go here, and you get to see a total solar eclipse. Out here, you see a partial eclipse. Out here, in the white part, you don't see any eclipse at all. It only was that simple. The Earth rotates. The moon is revolving around the Earth is revolving around the sun, and the Earth is tilted. And all of those change the shape of the eclipse map. We'll take it a piece at a time. The Earth rotates. So if you're here, as the Earth rotates, you will move into the shadow. And then, if you are, say, up here, you go from, no, it's not going to draw from me, that's not. You go from not in shadow to the light part of shadow and back to not in shadow. You only ever get a partial eclipse. If you happen to be in line with the dark part of the shadow, though, then you go from non-eclipse to partial eclipse to total eclipse, back to partial eclipse, and back to no eclipse. No eclipse is a normal. It's very rare that any one spot on Earth is to see a total eclipse. Well, if that was it, and the Earth was rotating there in place, then we just get a line where the eclipse is. But the Earth is tilted, and because the Earth is tilted, that line is now on a diagonal. And so the diagonal line goes across wherever on Earth, in this case across the US, from Mexico through Texas up through New York and into parts of Canada. And then it actually starts in the Atlantic, or starts in the Pacific and ends in the Atlantic. It's not a perfectly straight line though, because during that time the Earth is still moving around the Sun and the Moon is still moving around the Earth, so the line always ends up with a slight curve to it. You end up with this curvy line. We'll get to see plenty of eclipse maps, but there's lots of motions going on, and those motions combined result in different people getting to have different experiences. Some people, no eclipse everywhere in the United States. Somewhere you'll get a partial eclipse. Only people in the lucky narrow path where we are get a total solar eclipse. So this is all of the total solar eclipses in North America this century. You will hear some people talk about how this somehow means doom, that there is an eclipse, or somehow some kind of something special. And it is special. It's rare that any one spot on Earth gets to see it. These people never get a total solar eclipse this century. So it is rare. The prior total solar eclipse before 2017, the last one we had in the United States, was back in the 1970s. That was before I was around. Some of you were around for it, but it wasn't here in Ohio. And so 2017, big deal, went all the way across the United States. Many people call it the Great American Eclipse. This company managed to get that website, and they still have it. Made out this awesome graph. 2017, like I said, I was here in Missouri, and the 2024 path is this one here, and it's right where I was last time. I'll go watch it there again. The weather's back here. I hope to not have trouble. I cannot emphasize this, but I want to see it with my students. I want to see it with you guys. It's going to be so cool. But you will notice that that path of totality goes right through our parts of Ohio. It covers a little bit less than half of Ohio. There are parts of Ohio, including Columbus and most of the southeast corner, that aren't going to get to see the total eclipse unless they travel. 2017, it had been a while since we had an eclipse, and the last time, in the 1970s, I don't think the word got out as much or as fast, and it was not too bad. We were more populous, the word got out, kind of late this time, and everyone moved, and there was traffic in 2017. I hope things will be slightly better this time. It's going to be bad, but at least we're kind of prepared for it, because 2017 is recent enough to remember it. Here in Ohio, we do get another eclipse, and it's not until 2099. I may have a little bit too much gray in my beard right now, but to be around then, I'd be 117. I don't think it's going to happen. However, as I said, in 2045, I can't watch it here, and I can't watch it in Missouri. I'll come down here to Arkansas and watch it this time, and then in 2045, I'll go to Arkansas and watch it again. Because I can stand in the same spot and that'd just be cool. There is also one small one in 44. Technically, the 44 one's the next one, but they're only in that tiny part of Montana or up in Canada. Sorry. Anyway, solar eclipses in Ohio. The last total solar eclipse that we had in Ohio is 1806. It's this blue path here. The blue paths are total solar eclipses. There's another type of solar eclipse called an annular eclipse. You maybe heard earlier this year there was an annular eclipse that was visible in the southwest United States. It was partial everywhere else. It was partial here. It just happened to be mostly cloudy that Saturday, so I actually canceled my stargazing plans, and the 8th graders were in DC at the time, I think. I know our golf boys were golfing at state that day, and we just didn't have clear skies. But it was a partial eclipse here. We've had plenty of partial eclipses. But the last total solar eclipse over 270 years ago, there was an annular eclipse, and it was maximum eclipse was up in the Toledo area back in '94. There's a few people who saw that one, including Mr. Rose. And it took me a while to convince Mr. Rose that this was going to be a big deal. He saw the '94 one, and it was not that impressive. Like, it's cool to see a partial eclipse, but it is a world different than total solar eclipse. He did realize now, that's why we get the day off. But again, I encourage students, I encourage you to come out here, you want to watch it with a crowd. If the weather's good. If the weather's bad, I'm not going to be here. You can come out here and watch it still. I'm just not going to be here with all the equipment. Some of the equipment's going to be with me, and the rest of it will be in storage, unfortunately. This, by the way, is all the eclipses for those who can't read the title in the first 20 years of the 1800s. And there's a man at NASA, Mr. Eclipse is what he goes by, and he had access to a supercomputer and he needed to test it. And the way to test it, to see if it's doing your calculations you wanted to do properly, is have it do calculations you know the answers to already. And so he programmed it to simulate all the eclipses. And we were able to check it against the eclipses we knew of, and since it was right on those, we were pretty confident then about the eclipses we didn't know of that it was predicting. And so he had it all. So the program, an amazing website like that NASA has. It definitely looks like it's from the early 2000s, but it has 5,000 years worth of eclipses there, broken up into 20-year chunks like this. This here is a better view of this upcoming eclipse. Like I said, every one of the lower 48 is going to get a partial solar eclipse. And I like this particular map because it has lines partiality. Today, both my daughter and my father texted me a meme version of this that someone has put out there. And the question that they put over top of this is, will I see a total solar eclipse? Yes. Oh my God, this is amazing. Right through the path of totality. Out here? Nope, 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 nope. We live in an absolutely awesome area. If you do end up having to travel because the weather's bad and you're able to travel and you do, you need to stay inside that narrow strip. That narrow strip is where you get a total solar eclipse. Outside of that narrow strip, you get a partial eclipse. If you are on that blue line, you get an eclipse. You step on one side of that blue line, no total eclipse. Back in 2017, my dad didn't come to Missouri with me, and I'm sorry I won't poke fun of you here, but he decided to drive from Cincinnati to Kentucky here to try to get into the path of totality there. And unfortunately, he got to 99.8 something, I don't want to say high 8 something eclipse. Could not look at it naked eye. It's still a partial eclipse. Yes, it cooled. Yes, there were some weird light effects. Yes, you could look through solar viewers and see it, but it's not the same as totality. Totality, you absolutely have to be inside of that narrow strip. We fortunately live inside of it. As I said, the moon shadow is going to race across the Earth. This here is an animation of what it looks like as that shadow goes across the Earth. As you can see, it is drastically spread up. They got those central and eastern times here because the eclipse starts in, actually, not central time, but for the United States, starts in central time as the eclipse shadow moves into Texas. You can see the speed of the eclipse shadow as it's moving across the United States. It's getting faster because Earth is a sphere. And because the sphere this size, the circle is getting smaller, and as the size of the circle is getting smaller, the moon is moving essentially at the same rate, but the size of the area it's covering is changing. In addition to that, the totality is shrinking here. The maximum eclipse for this eclipse is actually off here in the Pacific, off the coast of Mexico. Maximum eclipse you can get on land then is right there. Maximum eclipse you can get in the United States here is in Texas. But here it's moved into Eastern time, or actually a mix of the two. And here we have, this is where we'll be in eclipse right around 309, and there we're out of eclipse before 315. There it's going through Cleveland, and one cool thing, you could that day tune into a live stream down in Texas, and then tune into a live stream somewhere else. And if I'm not here tuning to my live stream live, plan on being down there somewhere, and we'll make sure that I get it on my socials and school gets it reposted, and you can at least watch it here. But you could watch live streams of other people watching the eclipse, and then go outside and watch it yourself. Now, I think it's more worth it. It's clear here. Watching it the whole time outside yourself here, don't run into excitement. It's going to be cool enough. The next one here then is a close-up of what it's going to look like. Let's try it again. Next slide. There we go. This is a close-up of what it's going to look like in Ohio. I'm going to start the video playing and immediately pause it because it moves too fast. So here's Indianapolis, here's the shadow. You can see the state line here for Ohio, and this video is really trying to show most of Ohio. You can see here the speed of the shadow, the width of the shadow, the time that it is when totality is starting, and the duration of totality at what's called the center line. The center line, you get the longest eclipse. Out here, these people will get a fraction of a second of eclipse. You step on the other side, no total eclipse. You step over here, and you get partial eclipse. It's very short. The closer you get to the center line, the longer eclipse you get. We here in Rishi are really close to that center line. Back when we were still in session, I jokingly tried to convince Mr. Rose that he should take us up to Danon's parking lot, because Danon's parking lot is on the center line. And you get a whole 1 more second of the eclipse. And I tried telling him it was worth it. He didn't think it was worth that much. Bus, gas, drivers, time. He's probably right, but whatever. Anyway, we are really close to the center line here. We will get just under 4 minutes of eclipse where I live in Troy. We're far enough off the center line, just over there in Troy, that we actually lose 20 seconds. It is that drastic a difference. By the time you get down here to Dayton area, they have minute and a half. You get down to the northern suburbs of Cincinnati, they're less than a minute, fraction of a second. By the way, this eclipse path is a little bit wider, and because of that, we get a longer eclipse. In 2017, I was awfully close to maximum eclipse. I got under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We're going to have almost 4 minutes here. It's a world difference. The time slows down, and yet it still goes by too fast. Anyway, like I said, this one here is Podge. You see Greenville, you can see Pickle, Troy. Sydney isn't labeled there, but that puts us right in that area there, close to that string of 3 dots. And here we go. This is the eclipse shadow traveling across Ohio. And right there, 358 is where we are in terms of totality. And again, it's sped up a little bit, but that quick, we're off the map here. It's moving over the Cleveland area. If the weather's back here, there's an interesting lake effect that happens that might actually cause, even if there are cloudy skies in Ohio, clear skies in Cleveland and Toledo. I don't know if the weather's clear. I'll go wherever it's clear. If I don't have to travel to Missouri or Texas, I don't want to. Maybe I go there. At the same time, going south gets me a longer eclipse, so I've got more in my head already. And who knows if we'll be able to find somewhere to stay or who we sleep in our car. But anyway, hopefully it's just clear weather here. So this here is the Ohio map. And as I said, the blue line, the center line of totality, gets you the longest eclipse. And that center line goes right through Shelby County here, and we are off in this corner here. We've got dark Shelby and Miami, Shelby County line roads close to us, and so you can see where they all meet right there, and the center line is just up there. Everywhere in between the 2 red lines gets a total solar eclipse. Everyone on the blue line gets the longest solar eclipse possible in your area. The absolute longest is way down here, but there we have it. And then this one here, again, is just a zoom in on us, and just what a great eclipse we have. We are in a really ideal location. You could not be better situated for an eclipse. Here is the important data. This is on the handout that you should have got. If you didn't get a handout, make sure you do get one before you go. You can always go look these up. I have the URL down there, as well as the QR code. Those are on your page as well. If you do not live here in Rushi, or you just want to know exactly what time things are going to happen, this website, plug in your location, it will calculate them all for you precise. Take it with a grain of salt. It could be off by a fraction of a second on either end. It's more than good enough, though, when you start counting seconds. Anyway, the eclipse is going to start here in Rushi at 1:53:47, and the sun is going to be pretty much straight south and about 57 degrees high. What that means is take your fist, put it on the horizon, stack it 6 times, and you're somewhere in the middle of your fist there. Your fist is about 10 degrees out at arm's length when you stack it from the horizon. It doesn't matter whether you're a little kid or a big adult. It turns out the proportions are just about right anyway. It's going to start there. We are in the afternoon at that point, so the sun is already past its high point and is going to be moving towards setting. So over the course of the eclipse, which the total time that the sun is eclipsed is just over 2.5 hours, over the course of the eclipse, it's going to move towards 240 degrees. That's off this way here. We're looking more southwest at that point, and it's going to have gone down right about 2 fists worth on the sky. So it'll start up there, we hit totality here, and it finishes down there. It's still going to be plenty high unless you have a lot of trees or you're really close up to a building. You're going to be able to see it as long as you can see south. But it is going to move from straight south to southwest. It is going to move from high up to less high up. And up to this point, awesome. After that, I mean, it's cool, but this is the real high point. The real high point is totality. And I haven't actually shown you what totality looks like yet. That's coming up here in just a second. But totality happens a few seconds before 3:09. When we were still in session, totality was going to be happening a minute before the end of the school day. And I had students telling me, well, we'll just go get on the bus and we'll demand to leave. You're not going to demand to leave this. You're not going to be able to carry your ass away from us. But Here by 3:13, it's over. During this time here, you can take off those solar viewers and you can look right at the sun. You can see the sun's atmosphere. It's absolutely amazing. And we're going to get into things to do and how to safely view the eclipse here in a moment. Before we do though, we've looked at aerial views, but what's it actually going to look like for us here on the ground? This one here is taking the right one. You know what it does? So this is the site where I got the data from for Rushi. If you want to be picky, you're going to find Rushi here. So I just zoomed in on the map and put the push pin on the track. You can push pin down to essentially your house, definitely your street, and figure out the exact timings of the eclipse. And there's all sorts of nerdy details down underneath if you're like me and want to know all those nerdy details. Anyway, we are going to go here for this simulation. So here we have what's called C1, where the moon first touches the sun. It's going to move across. This whole process is going to go from 150 to 310 almost. So this is not happening this fast. In fact, you can see down here, it says step up. This is totality. Full eclipse starts. There we get maximum eclipse, where the moon is blocking it out as much as possible. And then here the eclipse ends. We end up at what's called C3 here, and the moon keeps going off, and then the eclipse ends. That's where the little guy super sped up. Most of that, there are the nice neat pause points in here, but most of that is at 500 times speed. Watching the moon slowly move across the face of the sun is slow and boring. It's worth looking at. Oh, that's cool. Looking away, doing other things. Hopefully those other things, like I said, will be some citizen science. But you have this brief moment here where the moon is completely covering the sun. It's going to last just under 4 minutes, and that is the big show. Anyway. And again, for your location, you can watch that animation, but it's not super different based off of different locations. And we'll show you though, if you are in partial eclipse instead of total eclipse, how boring the partial eclipse is going to be compared to the total eclipse. It does not do a good job of animating things like being able to see the sun's atmosphere. Pictures coming up towards the end. Now we have the obligatory thing. Don't look at the sun with your eyeballs without something protecting them. People are scared of going blind during eclipses. It's completely nonsensical. There's never been a reported case of anyone, a reliably reported case of someone going completely blind from looking at the sun during an eclipse without magnification. I do know a man, his book, it's a phenomenal book about astronomy, but he talked about how during that 1970 eclipse, he was looking through a telescope. Someone at the site had appointed themselves to be on the speaker. All right, totality begins in 3, 2, 1. Take off your solar filters. Look at it. And then he said, you know, we're all looking at it. It's amazing. He's looking at it through the telescope and saw something. He said, here's the man counting down. Totality ends in 20 seconds, in 10 seconds, in 5, 4. And he thought to himself, I'm sure that person's panning out a little bit so they don't get in trouble. I'm going to have a fraction of a second longer. Looking through a telescope with magnification, that fraction of a second longer, the person didn't give themselves any buffer. And he said he lost all color vision of that one eye. Through magnification, bad. Naked eye. If you go to look at the sun, you naturally close your eyes and look away. Yes, I think every little kid at some point plays the sun theory game where they if you force yourself to do it, yes, you can do it. But it's not going to be an actual thing that you want to do. When the sun is bright, you can't do it. When the sun is only 99.8% eclipse, you can't do it. You cannot look at the sun. It just doesn't work. Naturally, look with your eyes. You don't have to worry about that. Leave things on to protect your eyes. If you are going to look at the sun, don't look at the sun if you don't have things to protect your eyes. Solar viewing glasses, or as many people call them, eclipse glasses, they work for protecting your eyes against the sun. But without proper solar filters, don't look at the sun. Certainly don't look at it under magnification again, unless you have appropriate solar filters on your thing. Those telescopes that we bought with grant money, they all have proper solar filters. I aim those things at the sun regularly now because it's cool to look at the sun, but with the proper filters. Your cell phone camera, you put the eclipse glasses over it, it works. Don't aim your cell phone camera right at the sun. If you do that, make sure you're not looking right at the sun trying to aim the camera. But on the solar viewing glasses, now it's hard to see your phone. Impossible to see your phone. So, be careful doing that. Welder's mask, you'll hear the welder's mask can be used. It depends on the version. I have a welder's mask. I didn't bring it on purpose because mine is not strong enough. I don't know anything about welding ratings, but apparently they have to be the highest 2 ratings, a rating 13 or 14. If you have welder's goggles or masks that are rated 13 or 14, great. If you have them and you don't know what they're rating, use solar for your glasses. And in fact, the village council has bought plenty of them. They bought enough for us to be able to hand out a pair to every student and staff member here at school. And Mr. Doherty brought some with him here tonight to hand out to everyone who's here. So at the end, you can bombard him with, please give me my pair of solar glasses, and you can thank him and the village council profusely for providing those. Those are perfectly fine for looking at them, and they're way cheaper than welder's goggles, and they're guaranteed to be the right kind that you need. While the sun is partially eclipsed, or today, when the sun is nowhere near eclipsed, you have to have those kinds of glasses. Don't look at the sun otherwise. There we are back in 2017. That's me, my wife, and my 2 girls. Both my girls have me as a teacher, unlucky people this year. You will notice my girls are wearing the pink ones. I still have these pink ones. You may hear that these eclipse glasses do not last.
That is not true.
During that annular eclipse back in 1994, and by the way, right now I can't see a lick of you. I see my own eyeballs reflecting on you, but that's it. Back in 1994, when we had that annular eclipse, my dad bought a whole bunch of these, gave them to my 4th grade science teacher who ran the science club that I was in, and we sold them as a fundraiser for our science club. And we had these. As long as you take good care of them and you don't give them away, then they last. My 4th grade teacher posted a picture of her wearing her bright green ones because everything was neon in the 90s, I think. She was wearing her bright green ones back in October when she watched the annual eclipse that occurred back then. It was only partial here, but she watched it with the bright green ones. These do last as long as you take care of them. If they are creased, if they are damaged, test them first. How do you test them? Look at them, through them. Look at not the sun. Don't test them, look at the sun because they don't work. You don't want to find out the hard way. You can see anything through them, they are not good. If you can't see anything through them, then quickly look at the sun and look away. If it didn't hurt, you're probably okay. Give the sun a second chance. Then feel free to look at it if everything's been fine so far. If you're not seeing spots. If you're seeing spots, it's bad. That's how I knew my little struggles were not good. But those work also. Yes, I have plenty as a science teacher. We all took a pair. You do not absolutely have to have a pair of glasses. Like I said, it's very slow and boring watching the moon slowly go across the face of the sun. One pair for your family is more than enough. You take a look. All right, hand them off to someone else. They take a look. Hand them off to someone, and you can survive with one pair for the family. Another Eclipse ambassador I've heard him give several talks here recently. He's like, don't get them in their waist. I disagree with him. You want to look at the sun, just look at the sun. It's cool. But you don't necessarily need to hear it for everyone in your family. It's okay if you have to share. We didn't wear these the whole time. In fact, we only wore these all at the same time because someone was taking a picture for us. There are lots of other safe ways to view a total solar eclipse. One of them is what's called pinhole protection. Would you mind going ahead and turn off the lights for us? Yeah, it'd be nice. Anyway, it's hard for you to see here. This is a colander. There's a difference between a colander and a strainer I found out recently. I don't know which one's which, but the one with the big holes with lots of metal in between. That is a Foster strainer there. That down there, it's on the sidewalk. I wish I had a smooth surface. I'd taken a poster board or a sheet with me to lay it down there, but there are a whole bunch of little crescent moons there. This is called a pinhole viewer. It's the cheapest, simplest pinhole viewer that you can have. Back in 2017, NASA put out a whole bunch of absolutely awesome 3D printable state maps. We printed 4, one for each of us. My black one has gone missing. My family's blue and 2 purple ones still exist though. And there is a star-shaped hole here over the Missouri Capitol, and there is a circular hole here to be a pinhole viewer. And yet both of them are giving you a crescent moon shape there. These are called pinhole viewers. You do not use them to look through at the sun. You hold them up towards the sun and you look at the shadow and you will see that. I have a demonstration here as to how this actually works. It's still one of the most amazing demonstrations that I know of. This here is this exact light bulb. I took this picture on Sunday right before I gave this same talk out at church. And that light bulb, as you can see there, has kind of a C shape to the filament. It's just got some wires holding it in a C shape instead of in a straight line. So there it is. I'm going to put the microphone down here and I'll just talk about it for a moment. But if we take this and we cover it, probably should jump and pull it off before I get around quite so well. You make the main cover the light. Ooh, that was loud. I'm sorry. Now, I don't see anything. But if I poke a hole in here, and actually it turns out that the floor that I got quite a few holes, there are, and I was really hoping we get them up on the ceiling. We'll see if we can't get them here on the footing instead. There are C-shaped holes. They're not super impressive. Let me poke it back. This one's better and a smaller one. Poke a hole there. There is a C-shaped light. Circular hole, C-shaped light. Now, it actually turns out that the light bulb is like this right now and there. That if I make it a C shape like that for you, it looks like that there. A pinhole like this will flip the light. That one was amazing. This here is just a quick thing. Look at all this. All these little C shapes. If I turn the light bulb and I'm turning that filament, we're doing it. This is what happens during the eclipse. When you have the circular hole, you think, oh, the hole's what's giving me the circle. It's not. As long as the hole is tiny enough, when you use a pinhole projection like this, you're seeing the thing that's making the light. The thing that's making the light is the sun. The sun is a circle, so your spots are a circle. When the hole is, I apologize, I keep saying things down too hard on that table, but when the hole is a star shape, I still see a C shape here. When it's a star shape and you look at the sun, I do this every fall with my students. We take them outside. I ask them, what are you going to see when we have the star-shaped hole? They say a star-shaped spot of light. We do it. It's a circular spot of light. Because the thing making the light is the sun and it's a circle. When it's eclipsed, the sun has a crescent shape to it. It looks a bit like the moon in its different phases. And you get that this is a great way to view the eclipse. Then view it. And like I said, the pinhole works because it flips the image. I actually have one more here before. The pinhole flips the image. So here the blue is in the front. When it goes through the pinhole, the lines cross and the blue ends up in the back here, the red is in the back, and it ends up in the front here, and that's what takes that C shape and it flips it. The same thing is going to happen during the eclipse. So if you're looking through your solar viewing glasses, you will notice that as we're going up towards totality, the moon is on the right, moving into the sun that's on the left. And when you do a pinhole, it's going to be flipped. So it's going to look like the moon is on the left and the sun is on the right. You're also not going to see the circle of the moon, you're just going to see the light out of the sun that the moon is making. Absolutely awesome. You don't have to have a fancy 3D printed pinhole. You have that strainer. You can take that out. The big board works great. I had someone at my talk the other day ask me how big of a hole works. I said, I don't know. That's a good question. Now I have another experiment I have to do on Eclipse Day. I've got this for measuring screws and bolts. We'll see if that's too big. I've been told there's one where you get too big and one where you get too tiny. We'll see. It's an experiment for me to run. I'm looking forward to it. This is just one more bit of data I want to collect. This here is looking through leaves of trees. This is shadow behind leaves. Normally you'll see a whole bunch of circles. You won't think anything of it, but it is a whole bunch of little sun circles there. During an eclipse, it's a whole bunch of crescent suns. This is just someone doing this with their hands. Someone else is taking a photo, but doing this with their hands, and you're getting all these little crescents there. The gaps in their hands aren't crescents. They're squarish or rectangular-ish. That is because you're seeing the thing that's making the light, not the thing that's making the shadow. Just learned about this one. I am so excited to try this one. I have a giant disc wall in my classroom. Don't ask. No, I like disco. There's a longer story to it. The Q&A later asked me. I won't get into it and embarrass myself even more. But there is, and this one's harder to see, especially because this one's green, but it is possible that where this hits in the darkness, I'm looking for there, I've seen a couple spots over here close to my feet, but they are buried in. I don't think those of you in the back can see them, but there are the little mirrors on the disco ball behave like a pinhole reflector instead. And I don't know who figured this out, but there are a whole bunch of pictures back in October of it, and like I said, one of the other Eclipse ambassadors pointed this out to me, and I've seen a few pictures of it. I think we're going to see a lot of them at There's a word being spread about pinhole reflectors. I absolutely love the idea. Now, come on, yes, the lights can come back up. This is also something simple you can make. This is me trying to write Sully with a hole punch. This, I printed up because my handwriting is atrocious, and then I poked a whole bunch of little pinholes through here. It works. I personally have found that nail size holes work better. So this is the nail poking through here, and this will work as an Eclipse viewer. This is a great craft project if you have kids. Make yourself, put your name there, put your jersey on there, put a message there, and do that. And I have my students run the experiment, what size hole works. And like I said, I like a nail. Good big nail, just poke the nail through. Just be careful you don't poke yourself with the nail, especially with little kids. At this point, the lights can come back on. Keep on. Thank you. And lights are coming on. When they start. Anyway, there are other ways to do projection. Personally, I got very frustrated in 2017 when I tried to aim the telescope at the sun. That's because I had solar viewers or filters on the front end of my telescope. I forgot to make them for my viewfinder. And finding the sun through the telescope was hard. And I didn't have a lot of success. But if you have binoculars, if you have a telescope, this kind of thing can work. You don't want to look through there without a solar filter there. But you can, instead, project the image back here. The downside is, like I said, during the course of the eclipse, the sun is going to move. And so you constantly have to readjust and move this if it's not motorized and fancy. You will see lots of people who will recommend this method. I personally have never been super impressed with it, but it does work. It's a shoebox or any box. I mean, I've seen people make big shipping boxes, but you poke a hole in one side. If you want it to be really precise, you cut a hole in one side, you put aluminum foil there, and you poke a tiny hole. And then you will get that crescent moon, sun, inside the box. And you won't be able to see it. So you have to get a hole into the box so you can look in and see it. This one here, put it on the side. I've seen lots of people, they'll use a big shipping box and they'll put the hole in the bottom and they'll put their head in. And you have a whole bunch of people walking around with boxes on their head. With both of these, you aim the pinhole towards the sun and you're looking away from the sun into the box. It works. It's okay. I think that kind of pinhole here is much simpler, quicker, awesome. Like I said, the biggest downside, have a smooth surface to look at. I did it on a sidewalk. My pictures didn't come out right. I could see it, the photos weren't good. Putting a sheet down, putting a poster board down, it would have been much sharper. Live and learn. Fortunately, I didn't try to do it here. Things to do during eclipse. I have the whole list there. Unfortunately, the slideshow program I'm using is a cheap one, and it doesn't let me alternate between bringing up text and bringing up pictures. Otherwise, I'd have these come up here one at a time. But wear bright colors. There are weird things that happen when the light gets dim. There's something called the Purkinje effect. I noticed colors getting weird. I don't know that I noticed the Purkinje effect specifically, but I'm not wearing super bright colors either. And with that effect, reds and greens change how bright they are. My mom doesn't know this yet, but I just bought two polo shirts, a red polo shirt and a green polo shirt. She's going to cut them in half. She's going to sew a red half and a green half together, and I am going to have a ugly red and green shirt. But one side will become brighter, the other side becomes dim. And my dad can have the other half, but